Good morning. Welcome. Today we have another small town girl joining us, a probate and estate planning specialist. And what small town are you from, Dena Reecer?
Well, I'm originally from Stephenville, Texas, so that's my small town. That's where I grew up, but I currently live in Denton.
And so you made your way to the big city of Denton.
I did. It was a big jump.
How long have you been practicing in Denton?
We've been in Denton about 20 years, a little over 20 years.
And tell us what estate planners do.
Well, basically what we do is we provide wills and trusts. We help families plan for what happens after a loved one passes away, and we also we plan for disability as well. So we provide documents. That's basically estate planning. It does involve some other considerations like asset protection planning, business succession planning, but basically it's just to make sure that you have documents in place that says who you want to benefit from your estate when you pass away and who's in charge of making sure that happens.
Well, we can go on LegalZoom or download wills online. And so why would anyone need to hire a lawyer to get a will done?
Well, you can do your will. You can download a form and you can fill it in, but those forms are woefully inadequate most of the time because they don't plan for the contingencies that sometimes occur, like when people die outside of the natural order. I mean, you want to plan for those contingencies, and each family situation is different. I mean, so you want your documents to reflect, the complexities of your family and any concerns that you have within your family, and those form documents just don't always provide that level of attention and detail.
Well, and is the law the same in every state?
No, the law is different in every state as far as the formalities of the execution of wills and testamentary documents. So you really do need to speak to someone who knows what they're doing in your state, wherever you may live, to make sure that your documents are properly executed and that pass in the manner that you desire.
Right. So let's talk about the lawyers who do estate planning and probate law. Can any lawyer do that kind of work?
Well, in Texas, which I'll speak specifically to Texas, to practice law, you have to have a license. You have to be licensed by the Supreme Court of Texas. So once you have a law license, you can practice any area of law. So it is permissible. It may not be advisable, but it is permissible for anyone to practice.
But you've specialized in estate planning and probate law, correct?
That's correct. I have been very fortunate to be able to focus my practice in one area, and that is estate planning and probate law. So in order to do that, to hold oneself out as a specialist in that field in the state of Texas, not only do you have to primarily practice in that area of law, but you also have to have a board specialization, board certification by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. That is a special extra certification above and beyond a law license. It requires you have to at least been licensed for a minimum of 5 years, and you have to spend at least 3 years in the area of practice and have a primary focus in that practice. And then you have to sit for a 6-hour exam. You have to pass that exam. It's pretty rigorous. And then you have to, we have additional continuing education requirements that have to be fulfilled, and we have to recertify every 5 years. So it does, to be a specialist, you really do have to be able to focus your practice in one area of law and get good at what you're doing.
Tell us why you decided to take the time to become board certified.
Well, I really wanted to be very good at what I was doing. I wanted to be able to provide the best service I could to my clients. And like I said, families are complex, and it's there's no one size fits all for estate planning. And I've always known that that's what I wanted to do when I was practicing law. I knew I wanted to focus in estate planning and probate. And then when I had the opportunity to become a specialist, I took that opportunity. It's worth it.
Well, if a person in Texas is looking for a specialist in probate law and estate planning, how can they go about finding somebody who's got a board certification in that area?
There's a website, the tbls.org is the website. You can look up board certified attorneys in any area of practice. So that's one easy way to find it. In order for an attorney to advertise as a specialist, that attorney would have to have, the board certification, and it should be somewhere prominently on their website or any other advertisement.
So, other than just wanting to keep attorneys employed, tell us why. Who doesn't need estate planning? How about that way?
Well, everyone needs estate planning. Even if you don't think, minors don't, but we need to plan for our minors. But even if you don't think you have any assets, even if you say, I don't own any real estate, all of my accounts are set up to pass in the manner that I want, my brother to benefit from this. Everyone needs powers of attorney because those are, we refer to them generally as disability documents. So a power, in Texas we have two types of powers of attorney: financial powers of attorney and then medical powers of attorney. And those documents are important if we get to the point where we're no longer able to make decisions for ourselves. And if we cannot make decisions for ourselves, and we don't have a document in place, then the state of Texas steps in and imposes a decision maker for you. Same thing with having a simple will is as a backstop to maybe your self-planning for estate planning with account designations. That helps avoid, if you don't have if you don't have a will, if you don't have powers of attorney, then unfortunately the courts get involved, and the courts, while they provide a great service to the citizens of Texas, they're to be avoided if you can. And I'm speaking to a trial lawyer here, and of course the courtroom is your domain. But for my area of practice, it's nice to avoid the courts because the state of Texas will impose restrictions on your estate and on the persons who make decisions for you.
Well, I know from my own board certification that there's less than 7% of Texas attorneys are board certified, but tell us what percent of Texas attorneys are board certified in estate planning and probate law.
Well, my understanding is there are over 106,000 licensed active attorneys in the state of Texas. But of that number, there are only about 650 who are board certified in estate planning and probate law. So there are not very many of us.
So we're very fortunate to
Yes.
have Dena Reecer with us today,
well, thank
a
you.
board certified specialist in probate and estate planning in the state of Texas, practicing in Denton. But you haven't talked to us yet about, do you have any advice for any other small town girls that want to be a specialist and go to law school or be a probate and estate planning specialist?
Well, I do. It is a great area of law to practice in. It is very heavily client-based. You have a lot of client contact. And it's very rewarding when you get to meet with families and sit down and listen to what their concerns are and, whom they want to benefit, how they want, they share everything about their families with you, and you have the opportunity to be creative and to help them solve their problems. And it's very rewarding, and you just, when you can see how you can help families through difficult processes. And for young attorneys, I highly encourage young attorneys to go into this field of practice, because it is, it's challenging, it's complex, and it is very rewarding because you get to help people. And for a small town lawyer who's looking to do this, you need to find a mentor. I mean, that's the best advice I can give. If you can work for a firm who does that, that's great. If not, sometimes the job market's not so great, but find a mentor. I have found I'm happy to mentor young attorneys. I love to do that, and I was mentored, and that's so I think that's the best advice I can get. Volunteer your time. Get involved with your local bar association. Know who the attorneys are. Find out who has the reputation for being the best in what they do, and then seek that person out and take them to lunch, take them to coffee, just get to know them. So
I'm glad you mentioned mentoring. Dena and I both had great mentors. We were both very fortunate to have great mentors as young lawyers. But I'm hearing that in the virtual world today, a lot of young lawyers are finding that their best mentors are actually outside their firm.
Oh,
but they can mentor them virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of opportunities for people to be mentors and mentees right now, and I hope more lawyers will take advantage of that. Well,
I agree.
Dena, tell me the best part of small town living from your point of view.
The best part, it has been rewarding both professionally and personally. Professionally, in a small town, you get to know your colleagues, you get to know them well. Like, I've been very fortunate to get to know you, and we've become friends and colleagues, and we are able to refer cases to each other because I know and trust you, because I get to know you. Like, if someone who is injured, our practices overlap frequently because you're a specialist and board certified in personal injury law. So when someone gets hurt, you're sometimes that results in death. So that carries over to my area of practice, and I know that because I know you so well, because we practice together in a small town. I feel confident referring clients to you. And so that's the collegiality of small town practice has been very rewarding. And personally, it's a great place to raise a family. And my husband and I have two young adult children. My daughter has followed in my footsteps, so to speak, and she's a practicing attorney and practicing with me, and I'm able to be a mom and a mentor to her, and that's rewarding. And so it's very rewarding. I've had a couple of other young attorneys who have practiced law with me, moved from Dallas, big D to little d, and who wanted to focus their practice in estate planning and probate law. And they moved from a large firm to work with me in Denton. And by doing so, and having the exposure to the types of cases that I get to help people with, they were able to get their board certification. So, and I'm not sure that they would have been able to get that. These are two top-notch lawyers, finished first in their class. One of the attorneys who worked with me had her master's of law in estate planning. So I feel very fortunate to, even though we're a small town, it was attractive to them to come and practice law with me so that they could have the exposure and become a specialist themselves. So I'm very proud of that fact.
I echo your comments about the opportunities for small town lawyers to get more of experience that they're seeking. You know, I had practiced only 20 years when I reached my 50th jury trial. And I know from talking to a lot of Dallas lawyers and lawyers all around the country that very few lawyers that practice 20 years have 20 trials, much less 50 jury trials. So
Right.
it really has been a blessing. But I think small town folks, especially small town women, get a bad rap. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that there is a perception that we're not as sophisticated as our larger city colleagues. I think that there's a perception that, oh, if we live in a small town, then we don't know what we're doing, and that's very far from the truth. We, like you said, we have a lot of experience because we have a lot of exposure in our small towns, and I think women in general. I mean, I appreciate all the women who have gone before us and forged the trail for us so that we can practice law and do what we do and help people. So I just think there's a misperception about small town lawyers in general, and I think women in particular. It's just the nature of the beast, I'm afraid. So.
I agree. And there's a lot of bad things to say about Texas these days, but in truth, almost anyone can get an education in Texas because we have a great public college system, the university system. So
Absolutely.
I think we both have benefited from those public schools.
Yeah,
so.
state schools, yeah, absolutely.
Well, Dena Reecer, thank you so much for joining us here today. We've really enjoyed hearing more about board certification, and hopefully this will help some folks make a decision about whether they need to hire a specialist for their estate planning needs. Thank you.